All right. And it looks like we are live. Make sure the settings are good. I think we're good. Hi. Welcome. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever in the world you may be. Hello, Hope. Hello, Bella. Hello, Rini, Sarah, Robke, Anne, Roberta. Hello, you guys. Thank you so much for joining. Can everyone hear me okay? I should probably test and make sure that's a good thing first. Awesome. John, hey, welcome. You made it. Perfect timing. Literally just getting started. Fantastic. Dun, dun, dun. Everybody can hear me, right? And see me. Says we're good. I think we're good. Oh, I'm excited to get started. It's my favorite time of the week. I love being here with you guys. We're going to give it just a minute or so to let people trickle in before we go ahead and jump into some questions and get some feedback and just hang out and talk about the law. Hey, Juan. Hi. Thank you for joining. Awesome to see everybody here. I figured being a Wednesday and a work day, I didn't know if we were going to get a lot of traffic. And so far, for only being on for a couple minutes, not too bad. I mean, I know it's already later in the evening in the UK, which is good. So lucky you guys. All right. Gotta give it just another second or so, and then we'll jump in. See, we already got some questions trickling in, which is awesome. I will be going through and doing my best to go in order and answer as many questions as I can. Not too sure. I might have to jump off a little bit earlier today than I usually do, but I will try to get to as many questions as possible. So with that said, welcome, Juan. I'm glad you were able to make it. Sorry traffic sucked. So I will be aiming to do longer Q&A sessions going forward. Today is going to be under an hour, but going forward, I do want to try to make these a little bit longer, try to get to as many people as possible, but schedule depending. But I'm moving some things around to try to make these sessions a little bit longer because I absolutely love doing this with you guys. I love the interaction. I love to answer your questions. This is just my favorite time and my favorite thing to do. But yeah, going forward, I am going to make the best effort to maybe an hour and a half ish going forward. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to assume that volume's working, sound is working, video's working, and that we are good to go. Appreciate you guys coming in. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, mouse is giving me a little bit of issue. There we go. Okay. Red Hood. Is it possible to change your skin color from a dark brown to a yellowish tone through visualizing alone? If not, can it be done at all? Do you know of anyone's experience with this? Yes. So there have been many people that I've met where physical changes have appeared, whether that's changes in skin tone, undertone, changes in eye color, things of that sort. Yes. Yes, absolutely. It is absolutely doable. Now, if you're trying to go for undertone, really it's just getting as well to the best of your ability, just trying to see yourself. What helped me when I was visualizing for better health and physical appearance was kind of standing in front of a mirror and letting my gaze kind of slacken a little bit. My eyes were still open, but it's like I let my eyes just go blurry and try to see myself in my mind's eye as having clear skin. This is when I had really, really bad rashes all over my body due to an autoimmune disorder. I made a video talking all about that. If you're interested in learning more, it's I think it's titled "Manifesting Health and Physical Changes." But long answer short, yes, it is absolutely possible. Tracy, welcome. Good morning. It's early in California. Well, 9 a.m., early-ish. Let me see. My first question, Rini has a really good question. Does the law work all the time? If it's assumed so, I haven't seen movement, even though we don't need to feel or just affirm. So I'm a little bit confused at the last part of your question there, but to answer the first part of it, if it's working all the time, 100% yes. Always working, always taking effect. It's no different in that sense than the law of gravity. It's always working. It doesn't take breaks. No. And if you can clarify the second part of the question there, I do apologize, but to answer the first part, yes, the law is always working and we're always utilizing. This is something that does not turn on and off like a light switch, no. Robke has a really good question. I'm still curious how to revise many events without revising each one of them separately. If this is answered in an upcoming revision video, just ignore this. So I'm still curious how to revise many events without revising each one of them separately. So, and again, correct me if I misunderstood the question, but I think from what I've gathered, revision, when it comes to revision, do we have to visit each event individually? Do we have to go through in a series of events and take care of each one? And I mean, the answer is you could. That is one way to go about it. It's definitely the more tedious way to go about it, but you could. That's not the only way, though. So there's different ways to apply revision. There isn't one full swoop. And really the same can be said for every technique, SATs, whatever it is you're trying to do. So in this case, another way, if there were a series of events that happened maybe in a particular time in your life, a couple ways that you can go about it other than revising each event individually would be to, if you can go back to recall maybe the first event that you can in that period of time. Like if it's a series of events, if you can recall what may have set it off, if that makes sense, and revise that, that will, that sort of disrupts the chain of events to follow. Another thing that you can do is create a new memory entirely. Create something new entirely that would imply the series of events never took place, right? Because we got to remember that revision is the same thing as SATs, just for the past instead of the future, if that makes sense. We are effectively creating new memories anyway, but it can be something entirely new that maybe you didn't experience. Just change the story entirely, change the timeline by doing so. Anne has a fantastic question. I just saw this one. My question is, what does Neville mean by effort? Does he mean using effort during the imaginal act? For example, trying to see something very hard? Or does he mean effort in general? And I'm actually going to be talking about this one more in detail. I'm going to be making a video covering this in more detail because of how important it is. In general, we do not want to try to exert ourselves, or we don't want to try to force this process. When we think about this, is something that we're always utilizing the law all the time, always have, and it's always been very natural to do so. It's a very natural process. So when we try to exert a lot of mental effort and willpower, basically treat it like it's work, that's where we begin to feel like we're hitting against a brick wall. That's where a lot of resistance comes from. That's what we want to avoid. So, for example, if you're trying to utilize SATs and perhaps you're, trying too hard to loop it, or you're trying to, get the technical details just right. You're focused on trying to like make the tones as vivid as you can, and it feels like it's being forced. The best way to describe it is it's a feeling of like you're trying to force it to happen. And if that's the feeling that's coming, we want to avoid that. We want to avoid that feeling. That's a really good way to lead us to burnout. And that goes for anything in general. That's not just imaginal acts, right? So when I talk about the path of least resistance, this is what I'm talking about. Like getting into habits and patterns and implementing the laws in ways that feel more natural to us than perhaps others, right? So playing around with things a little bit, but don't get too hung up on the technical details of the techniques. At the end of the day, what we're looking for is the natural feeling of it. Whatever it is you're imagining, it's the natural feeling of it. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I am going to make a video talking more about that because I know that's one a lot of people struggle with understanding. Hope has a question. What affirmations can I use if he's saying there's no connection between us and we are always arguing? So if somebody tells you something, or if somebody says something that you do not want to hear and that you do not like, anything that is not ideal, don't accept it. The first thing that we want to do is revise it. The first thing we want to do is revise it. And we want to imagine, or if affirmations are your go-to, if affirmations are what you use and helps you to feel that wish fulfilled state, you can go ahead and use affirmations for revision. But either way, do not accept it. And as far as what those affirmations are or what they could be, really, this is where we get to get creative. And it could be anything you want it to be. But it's whatever you would rather have had him say instead. So instead of hearing that conversation that, he doesn't want to see you and that you're always arguing or whatever it might be, instead imagine that he's saying the opposite or something that you want to hear. But ultimately, revise that event. Revise that event. Sorry, I lost my spot. I'm trying to go back real quick. Sorry, guys. Movement like crazy all of a sudden. Yeah, Tracy. Can you explain the eavesdropping technique? Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question, Pixie. So the eavesdropping technique is one essentially where you're overhearing two people talking in your imagination. So say that whatever it is that you desire, whatever it is you desire to manifest, you're essentially eavesdropping over two people that are confirming that desire. So maybe your two friends are communicating about you and SP getting back together, or how you came into a windfall or a very successful business, but you're overhearing conversation between two people in imagination confirming what it is that you want to hear, if that makes sense. So it essentially the same way in which we eavesdrop in real life, real life, it would be basically that, but in imagination. It's a really fun technique. Being the creator and being able to do anything we want, isn't it pointless to follow the conventional life path we're told to follow? Most of us did not enjoy school, college, job, etc. I mean, yeah, yeah. Oh, let me back up a minute. I wouldn't use the word pointless because, I mean, there are many of us that did enjoy going to school or do have a desire to go to school and, you know, work in corporate or work a 9 to 5. That's a thing. That's a way for some people that they prefer, and that's totally fine. There's no like right or wrong in that sense. But do we have to go the conventional route? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not at all. Tracy has a really good question. How do I heal my relationship with my brother who refuses to speak to me since our dad transitioned 6 years ago? Like, what approach would you take? Thank you so much. Mm, That's a really good question. And I love that the focus is on healing with those around you. The first thing that I would do would be to imagine. There's a couple ways that you can go about it. Me personally, I would imagine a scene that would imply the two of us communicating again. Perhaps I would imagine that they were over at my house and maybe it was the holidays and we were laughing and they were telling me how happy they were to see me again. Something along those lines, going to the end. Another thing that you can do would be to just see them in imagination standing in front of them. Doesn't have to be in a particular location. It could just be a black backdrop basically, but see them in imagination, see them in your mind's eye, and tell them everything that you want to tell them that you desire to see happen. Tell them that your desire is to communicate again. Tell them that you miss them and that you cannot wait to see them again, if that makes sense. Basically, what we want to do is really begin to impress the idea and impress the image that you and your brother are now in communication, that there is communication going on. And I'm going to make a video kind of talking more about the, I don't know what you even call it, but seeing that person and speaking to them in front of them. Like, there was a name for it and I forget it off the top of my head right now, but there is a good technique, and it's kind of akin to thought transmission, because when you see that person in imagination, you're essentially talking to their higher self. You're talking to awareness. But either way, the aim and the goal is to really begin to impress that you are now in the state, that you're now stepping into the state where there's communication and there's healing and there's love. That's what I would do, first and foremost. How would you revise for weight loss? couple different ways you can go about that. So anything that you want to see, like picture in your mind, picture something that would imply that you're at your desired weight, whether that's looking at the scale and seeing the numbers you want to see, whether that's shopping for clothes and the size that you desire to shop in. But either way, it's, we can use the same thing applied in any different area of our life that we desire to see. But really begin to impress that new state, really begin to impress that new idea that this is your ideal weight, and really feel that, really see that to the best of your ability. Practice getting into the mindset of somebody who is a size, fill in the blank there. Whatever that is, whatever the number, the weight, whatever the style, really begin to picture that in your mind's eye in your day-to-day. It doesn't just have to be in the morning or in the evening, though those are great times to utilize. It could be ongoing throughout the day. But see yourself on that scale, or see yourself fitting into the clothes that you would want to see. Do-do-do. Sunflower has a really good question. Sorry, lost my spot. Sorry, guys. If there's periods of silence, it's because I'm looking for where I left off. Is it normal to feel down and sad even though my SP is conforming? I should be happy, but I don't feel happy. What is wrong with me? So it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. I would definitely recommend maybe ramping up the observation, the inner observation, and really going within. Because ultimately, if we're confused about where we stand or what state we are in, or why something is happening, why we feel a certain way, any time that we're uncertain about what is going on, we look inwards. So careful self-observation throughout your day-to-day. And perhaps in meditation, or perhaps when you go into imagination, begin to feel it out. Begin to go in with the intent and the inquiry to whatever is going on and whatever is causing the sadness, like come up to the surface. Set the intention that whatever it is going to be something that comes to light and something that you become aware of. But either way, definitely pay close attention to the inner conversations, the moods, the feelings, and where they all may be stemming from. Could be that they're going under the radar. It's very easy to overlook things. It's very easy to go back into autopilot, and a lot of things get missed that way. A lot of times we don't always observe what might be going on. But the key is always to go within. The key is always within us. So self-observation, maybe really ramp up the mental diet, and going into meditation or going into an imaginal scene or imaginal act, going with the intent that whatever it is that you're searching for, whatever is causing the sadness, come up to the surface and have it come to light, if that makes sense. Juan has a really good question. Why do we get disappointed when we are 100% sure, or why does disappointment exist if we are 100% sure of something happening in a certain way, and all our beliefs are aligned with that outcome, and we often get blindsided by circumstances and people? So Why is it that if we're 100% certain about something is going to happen a certain way, we get blindsided? Is what I took away from it. If I'm if I need to be corrected, then definitely let me know. But why do we get blindsided? If we are so convinced, if we have the conviction that something is going to play out a certain way, but then it doesn't, how do we explain that phenomena? It goes starkly in contrast with the law, right? And that's a really good question. And I did make a video talking about that. I did make a video covering that topic because, the short answer is anytime that kind of experience happens, we can bet that there is a deeper, more underlying belief, or there is a deeper core conviction that's at fault there. So we have belief systems. It is a very intricate system, so to speak. Consciousness is a very intricate thing indeed. But we have specific beliefs, we have general beliefs, we have core beliefs, we have, sort of the foundation of who we are. And typically those are things that we experienced or were taught or learned in childhood. So there may be a conviction in this moment that something's going to happen, but if it's in contrast with any of the core beliefs that we carry, that's where we're likely to see getting blindsided. But definitely check out the video that I made talking more in depth about that. And just like with the last question, if we're ever wondering, if we're ever uncertain as to why something played out in the way that it did, or not sure where it came from, it's always time to look within in that case. It's always good to really become, really heighten self-awareness and be aware of what the patterns are going on, because I kid you not, you guys, we are autopilot creatures. And I say this a lot, but I'm not kidding. Especially before finding out about the law, we were hardly ever self-aware as to inner conversations, inner thoughts, inner feelings. So many things can be going under the radar without us even being aware of it. So really that is a good indication to go within and do some reflection and seeing if perhaps there is something going on, something that you've been holding on to that you may not have been consciously aware of before. And those are my 2 cents. But definitely check out the video. I forget the title off the top of my head, but I make a note to put that in the description box after this. Thank you for the answer. I think I have been forcing something to happen or forcing to speed things up. I will try to relax more. Yeah, it's easy for us to get stuck in the mindset of trying to take action. Like, we're very acclimated to taking sort of action and reinforcing things through willpower, because that's kind of what we've been taught to do in a lot of instances. But when applied to the law, it's very much the opposite. You're going to have much, much better success, and things come much faster when you are able to relax yourself into it. And really, when you go and imagine that desired outcome, do it from a place of just, I want to experience this in imagination, and I just want to feel good. Like, there's no motive, there's no expectation. I'm just doing this because it feels good to do so, because it does feel good to do so. And that goes directly with the law of reversed effort, or the backwards law, as it's called, which I've also made a video about. But that's something to definitely keep in mind. Are we trying to force this? If so, we gotta release our grip. Gotta release our grip on it. Definitely try it. Definitely try the eavesdropping technique. It's a fun one. I've really enjoyed it in the past. You're welcome, Sunflower. The worlds between worlds. I'm glad you enjoyed the video. Absolutely. Absolutely. I eventually want to get to a series, but there's so many videos that I've got on my list. There are like a couple dozen videos in the works coming up, but that one's sooner than later. Although it may have to turn into a series. Does revising really change the past? Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That is the purpose. And when we change the past, the future outcome has to change as well. Oh no, Element, don't worry. You made it. You made it. Hi, Missy. I have mild OCD and sometimes I try really hard not to ruminate, but the negative thoughts keep showing up. I find myself paranoid that they will manifest in the 3D because I didn't flip them in time. Any advice? So I really like that question because it brings up something that I've noticed a lot. A lot of the times when it comes to flipping thoughts and fear of our thoughts, this is something that, I mean, we don't need to fear our thoughts first and foremost. If you've found yourself and you've become aware that you have been having negative inner conversations, perhaps things that are not enjoyable or not ideal, if you find that at any point, I mean, just take a moment to begin to turn your attention away from it, turn your focus away from it. And if it's been some time, revise it. I mean, we can think of it. I'm trying to think of a way to explain this that might be easy to picture. So when it comes to subconscious impressions, a really good metaphor that's been used by Neville is it's like planting seeds. And the subconscious mind is the fertile ground, and our feelings, these thoughts that invoke feelings, are the seeds, whether good or bad. If we have negative thoughts with feeling, thoughts that make us anxious, thoughts that make us, thoughts that invoke us, so to speak, and that seed is planted, we can always uproot them. We can always uproot them. We don't have to fear our thoughts. In fact, doing so is sort of defeating the idea that we're God, that we have the ability and the power to change things. We have the ability and the power to experience whatever we want. So if you have had negative thoughts, if you've had a bad day and you've been ruminating on things that are not desired and not ideal, that's okay. That's okay. We're still having a human experience and all the emotions and fun things that come with it. Just as soon as you notice that you're doing so, try to disengage, try to take the focus and put it somewhere else. It's not even that we have to flip every single thought. Just turn your attention away from it. What I do is I just say, nope, I reject that, and go over here. Turn my attention away. And that's literally it. But if you've noticed it's something that you've been doing, you can uproot them. Like, you can uproot those seeds. Just because you've thought them does not mean in and of itself that it's going to manifest. So I hope that helps. I hope that maybe at least brings you a little bit of relief, because we can't stop thinking. I mean, we're always thinking. There's always going to be that mental chatter and activity. All we can do is learn to direct it. We're not trying to stop it. We're just learning to redirect it. And if you've had bad thoughts, we can uproot them. We can redirect from them. We can revise them. That's the beauty of all of this. So do not fear your thoughts. You are much more powerful than your thoughts. I promise. What are your thoughts on revising death? I promise that video is coming out. Every single live, somebody asks about revision and death. And I promise that video is coming out. The reason that it is taking some time is because prior to that video coming out, it's going to make much more sense to explain death in general and have an understanding of what death is. Because as you can imagine, it's nothing like what we have perceived it to be before. So there needs to be understanding of that first and foremost to make sense of the video that I'm making about revision and death. So you can almost think of it like a 2-part series. But that is coming. And I love that you guys are really fascinated by these more, I guess, these deeper metaphysical topics. I'm here for it. What's your take on someone who wants their SP back, but the SP moved on and even had a baby with somebody else? It's been a couple of years since SP is gone. Are there moral issues when it comes to manifesting? So I think it helps to have an understanding of how this law works and I guess what's really going on in general. So I mean, short answer to your question is no. No, it's not a moral issue, because we're not forcing somebody else to change. We're not manipulating somebody on the outside. We're not trying to do anything to influence the outside, period. All the change that happens comes from within. To see change on the outside, the only way to do that is to change us. So that's, I mean, that's the long and short of it. You know, regardless of the circumstances, they truly, it does not matter what's happened. It doesn't matter, because ultimately what we're manifesting is the version of them that already exists, because all things already exist. And there is a state of consciousness, there is a reality where our specific person has the desire to be with us. And that's what we're manifesting. That's what we're stepping into. That's the aim. So it's not changing that person that might be in front of you at this very moment. It's changing ourselves. I hope that makes sense. How cool, John. Yes. Oh, you were so welcome, Alex. You were so welcome. I'm happy that it gives me joy in ways that I cannot even express, that this is helpful. Like, this is what I was put here to do. You are so welcome, Tinky. You are so welcome. Sincerely. And that goes for everything. That goes for anything. That goes no matter what. No matter what the appearance on the outside. Does not matter. Does not matter. Does not matter. Does not matter. at all. I love the spicy questions. The spicy questions are my favorite. I just love that there's such a hunger for this knowledge and to have a deeper understanding of this reality and what is actually going on in it, and the capabilities that are true and possible to us. Because I mean, the limited scope that we've been seeing through it for so long, when that begins to widen, oh, it's the best feeling in the world. Fatima has an awesome question. Love your understanding of Neville's teachings. Thank you. I'm manifesting multiple things: money, wealth, health, SP. How to do all of them effectively? Do I do state akin to sleep to all of them? Really good question. So, if there's multiple areas of our life that we desire to see change, do we do sats for each of them? Again, that sounds kind of tedious. I mean, we could if that's something that we want to do. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But as far as utilizing the most effectively, or utilizing it in a way that's the most effective and maybe less time consuming, um, I'd recommend something like the lullaby method. I'd recommend something that is more akin to the general state. That one, honestly, bar none, is that's my go-to. The lullaby method is my go-to for the reason that it deals in the more general, and that way it affects every area of my life. So, for example, meditating in a state of gratitude, that gratitude will show up in all different ways: in love, in health, in abundance, and wealth, all of the things, personal development, spiritual awakening, all of the things. So, I would do something that generally encompasses that feeling. And in short, I did make a video about the lullaby method, but in short, just ask yourself what it would feel like having the experience of all the desires in each area of your life. So if you had an amazing relationship with somebody that you love, if you had more than enough money, if you were, financially abundant, if you had every facet of your life was amazing, like how would that look? How would that feel? And what would be a way that you could describe it? If you can sort of condense that feeling down to a word or a phrase and really marinate on that, that is my favorite way to implement the law consciously. And it was Neville's too. So, yeah, we don't have to do a scene for each desire that we have. If there's multiple desires, we can, but we don't have to. Who would be your favorite manifestation YouTuber if you have one? Oh gosh. Favorite YouTube manifest. I mean, there's several good ones. There are many good ones out there. I love, um, oh gosh, what's her name? Candice, I believe. Oh, it's it's right there, but I'm having trouble. I think her name's Candice. She's a lovely woman who lives in Hawaii. I'm forgetting the name of her channel too. Dang it. I'm having a blank moment. But she's amazing. Gosh, it's going to bug me now. Hang on, I got to look her up. Candace, I think that's how you pronounce her name. Awaken the God Self. That channel is amazing. She is amazing. Sylvian, Manifesto Sylvian, she's amazing. There are many. There are a handful of incredible YouTubers. Those two, I'd have to say, are probably my favorite, tied for my favorite. Very, very deep understanding of the law, and it shows. And very genuine. They're very genuine in their approach. So I absolutely love their videos. I just want to say how much I truly love and appreciate your live Q&As and everyone here. Oh, Tracy, mwah. I'm so grateful to see you here. I absolutely adore you and everyone here so much. If circumstances can't be ignored, e.g., homelessness or a broken arm, how do you focus on your desire and still deal with the situation? If circumstances can't be ignored. So, for the circumstances that can't be ignored, which, by the way, it's so for circumstances that can't be ignored, e.g., homelessness or a broken arm, how do you focus on your desire and still deal with the situation? So, I mean, for example, let's take the case of the broken arm. If you have a broken arm and say like you're in excruciating pain in that moment, what do? Because it feels very difficult to do so, right? I mean, the first thing you want to do is go to the hospital and get that thing in a cast, because, I mean, we're not taught to just lie or put ourselves in harm's way. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. If there is a medical emergency, go to the doctor. If something is dire, like we're still experiencing in this 3D world, right? So it's not that we're just like literally trying to ignore it at our peril. Take care of that first and foremost. As soon as you are able to turn your attention, because if you are in that moment in extreme pain, it is going to feel incredibly difficult to do so, to try to imagine having non-pain. I mean, that said, it is certainly possible, it is certainly doable. I've certainly revised injuries that in the moment were incredibly painful. But if you are unable to, if you are not able to in that moment really imagine the alternative outcome, take care of what you need to take care of first. You know, as soon as you get to a place where you are able to begin to go into imagination, then do so, if that makes sense. Candice thought, yep, that's the one. Joseph Ally is good. Mm-hmm. Revision is the most challenging thing to do. Do I play the revised scene as state of kin, or do I write down the revised version and affirm that? My biggest issue is my own subconscious holding on. So, I mean, first, yes, it can certainly feel at times, especially when we're just getting into, if we're just doing revision for the first time, if we're just getting into beginning to revise the past, it certainly feels challenging because it's different, because it's something that we're not used to. So initially, it's going to feel a little bit awkward in most cases. You know, that said, as far as what to do or how to apply it, it really is either of the ways that you described are just as effective. It's whatever one resonates with you. If you enjoy visualizing, if you enjoy doing SATs and the state akin to sleep, if that is your go-to to get to the wish fulfilled, then I would recommend that. If affirmations, are a way that better resonate with you, then I would recommend that. There is no right or wrong way to apply a technique. It's going to be different for everybody. Everyone is going to, some people are much more apt at seeing things in imagination than somebody else, so whether that's through affirmations, whether that's through visualizing, either one will work. Either are effective. And know that the reason that revision initially might feel difficult is because of the belief that we can't change the past. We've always, before finding the law, we've been very much ingrained to believe that the past is set in stone, that you can't change it. There's no changing it. What's done is done, and there's no changing it. So that at first might feel like difficult to suspend the disbelief. But another way to approach it, if that feels like it's too difficult because maybe that it does not feel real, it doesn't feel believable at all, if that's a cause that's holding you up, then I'd recommend applying it just, again, to not to try to convince yourself that you're trying to change something, but do it because you enjoy imagining that a better outcome happened instead. Right? So kind of take the pressure off of yourself is what I'm trying to say. But to answer your question, either visualization or affirmations can be just as effective. Whichever way we do it, we just want to get to a point where it begins to resonate and it does begin to settle in. It begins to have it begins to feel like this is something that happened. Yes. Sometimes I catch myself in the awareness that the more money that comes in, the more I start obsessing about it and worrying. This seems strange, no? I'm practicing letting go and affirming. No, I don't think it's necessarily strange. Um, when I certainly had moments like that. Especially growing up for me personally, we were very, very poor. Just going to be very blunt about that. So when I did actually get to a place where money started coming in, my initial subconscious reaction was fear and uncertainty because it was something that I was not used to having. It was something that was very new to me. So initially it was like, oh God, what do I do? How do I make sure that I don't lose this all again? Is sort of the feeling. I wouldn't say that that's entirely uncommon. But, that being the case, absolutely just want to practice letting go of that fear because that fear is completely irrational. That old story and that old state, it does not have to, it can cease to be now. We no longer have to dwell there. How do we accept, I like this question, how to accept fully the current circumstances, and I mean fully, but in the meantime, know that it's done. It's like two states fighting each other, accepting but embodying that it's done. Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, that's what we want to achieve. That is ultimately the aim that we want to get to. We want to get to a place where whatever's happening in the 3D circumstances are irrelevant. There is no attachment to it. We don't have any sort of attachment one way or the other because we're fully committed to that end. And we're, it's almost like, how do you even describe it? Knowing that you're like, if you've booked a trip or you have something that is coming in your day to day, like You don't think about it. You don't worry about it. No matter, even if it's showing like your flight got delayed or whatever, I mean, you might be kind of like, okay, that sucks, but you know that you're still going to go. You don't sit there and think, oh God, I'm never going to go now. Like, it will get sorted. It has to. It has to sort itself. This is the law. So how to get there, I think, was your question. How to accept fully the current circumstances. But in the meantime, know that it's done. So that comes with faith. When you have complete faith in the law, you can be completely zen about the current circumstances, whatever they might be. Apologies if you hear the tornado warning in the background. There's not a tornado, it's just a drill, but if that's coming over, I'm sorry. But no, that comes from faith. And Neville often talked about the two key ingredients to successful conscious creation is imagination and faith, right? So when we have complete and total trust in the law, it doesn't matter what the outside looks like. It really, like, you can be in the middle of a freaking war zone. If you are ultimately in your end and you know that you are at peace and you're going to be okay, it won't matter. And something that may help in really beginning to understand that would be the video that I made about the 12 disciples, and kind of breaking that down a little bit. I do want to make into a series talking about each one. That may be a little bit down the road, but that comes through faith. That comes through faith. And it comes to the understanding that the outside is pure reflection. Pure reflection. Nothing more, nothing less. And having a true understanding of that. But that really comes with faith. So, yeah. Good question here. I have gotten multiple desires, but they went away. Why? Do you believe in removing subconscious blocks before manifesting? So I'm definitely making a video about this topic, because if we're successful in manifesting our desired outcome, or perhaps even multiple things, but then they go away, that's because we may have impressed the idea of that desire, but we fell back into our old habits and our old ways of thinking. It's kind of, you can think of it as knowing that we're always moving in and out of states, but we always have a dominant state. There's always a state that we are inclined to return to based on our dominant beliefs and assumptions that we carry, right? Our dwelling place, essentially. Whatever that dwelling place is where we're returning to. So we want to make our desired state, the wish fulfilled, the dominant state. And we do that through a change within us. That same thing happened with my SP. The first time around, I was just trying to throw anything at the wall to see if it would stick, and purely coming from a place of fear. And I was able to, because I was so fixated on getting him back, that did happen. But because I was still set in my old patterns, in my old beliefs, and my old ways of thinking, that ruined everything in the first place. Guess what happened? So for maintaining the manifestation, we need to maintain that state. And a lot of times, once we see it come to pass, it's easy to go lax and sort of let ourselves fall back into our old patterns and our old ways of thinking. So it is about making sure that we are consistently living in the end. And that's why I really emphasize wanting to teach this as a way to make it a lifestyle. Because this is not about to just get a quick fix just to see it come and go. But yeah, that happens when we move into that new state and then move right back out again. It's the fear of losing it all again. Yep. Yep. How do you focus on the new story when you have no choice but focus on the current circumstances? Like going to a job you hate but manifesting financial abundance. So, how do you focus on the new story when you have to interact with the old story, basically? How to maintain that new story? Practice going into imagination and living in there. Like what we want to do in that case, if you are faced with interacting with something that is not ideal, if you say you have a job that you hate, but you're also you're trying to manifest freedom and financial abundance, we need to detach from the 3D, which is not always an easy feat to do. But with practice in imagination, with practice going into imagination, you can make it so it feels like you are going somewhere else entirely. And again, it does take practice. We don't know the full strength and lengths that we can go in imagination. We have tapped into about a minuscule fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what we can do in imagination. You can step into whole new worlds. I mean that in the most literal sense in the word. So what we want to start doing is practicing. And it's easier if you do it when you're not, like in this case, it might come easier to begin to imagine more at home and begin practice shutting the door, as Neville would say. Shut the door to the 3D, shut the door to the outside world, and live in imagination. Live in imagination. And it's going to take practice. It is going to take practice because we are all ingrained to believe that imagination is fake, it's make believe, the 3D is the real world. So there's a lot of unlearning that we're doing simultaneously here. But practice going in and preparing a place and shutting the door to the 3D. Because ultimately the 3D is just it's just the outpicturing of all the beliefs and assumptions anyway, the old story. That's all it is. So practice playing in imagination and prepare that place that you want to live and experience in imagination. Can I visualize two different scenes, one at night and one in the morning? Or does it have to be the same? Yeah, you can absolutely visualize multiple scenes. If that resonates and that's something that you enjoy doing, then absolutely. Do you think that it's necessary to avoid social media, 3D reality? I mean, I wouldn't say that it's necessary. I would say that it would absolutely, in some cases, depending, it would certainly help. It will certainly help at times. I will recommend strongly that if you are in if you feel like you are in a vulnerable state, if you feel fear or any sort of apprehension, I know our instinct is to want to go looking for comfort in the 3D. We want to avoid the urge to do so because we are not going to like what we find if we go looking for things in that state. Get out of that state. We don't want to play in that state. Would I say it's necessary to avoid social media entirely? No. But it will, for a lot of people, it can be incredibly helpful to do so. at least until we begin to detach from the 3D. Do you think doing sat scenes for fun, unrelated to trying to get something, but just to feel good, can benefit overall manifesting? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Night and day. Absolutely. I love being in a recording studio singing. Hell yes. Hell yes. Like, it's sort of akin to when we would get lost in our daydreams and how good that would feel. It is effectively that, but instead of picturing it as if it's something that's happening in the future or happening somewhere down the line, imagine it and experience it as if it's happening right now. And really, when we approach it from a place of this feels good to do it, so I'm going to do it, versus I'm going to do it because I desperately need this outcome to happen, night and day. You're going to notice night and day. Yes. Yes. I remember how fun that used to be, and it just feels good. So it moves me into a better state naturally. Yes. That's it. That's it. That's it. Do you think the Pisces full moon is the reason why I feel like an emotional wreck for the past days? How does the full moon influence my SP manifestation? It doesn't, except to the degree in which you believe it does. So there is no outside power that has direct influence over you. We might believe that to be the case, and then from that, we're going to be influenced by what that belief might be. If it's, the belief that the moon is affecting us, then that's how we're going to begin to approach it. That's how we're going to begin to be influenced by it. But does the moon have power over your SP manifestation? No. No, it does not. Not at all. Nothing outside of you has power, has dominion over you. Period. Period, period, period. Hey, Missy, what do you suggest if I'm consistent with SATs/mental diet for about a month and then something triggers me and I spiral? So, what do you suggest if you're consistent with SATs and mental diet for about a month and then something triggers and you spiral? Revise it and move yourself back into that state. Revise it, move yourself back into that state. And that's what we want to, if we, for whatever reason, at any time, have a reaction, if we spiral, if we have a bad day, that's okay. That happens to every one of us. We just want to, as soon as we're able to, as soon as we've begun to calm down, as soon as we begin to let those emotions have subsided, revise it. And as soon as we're able to, turn your attention back to the wish fulfilled. 70 times 7, as Neville would say. You are so welcome. I do have to get going soon, you guys. Although I want to stay here all day and answer these questions. These are amazing. I'm going to do a couple more questions and then I'm going to wrap this up. It is said after you see the end scene to drop it. but I love doing inner conversations throughout the day. It is fun. Does it interfere with manifesting? No, it does not. If you enjoy having inner conversations and it feels good to do it and you enjoy it, do it. Do it. Absolutely. In fact, all that can do is help you to maintain that state of the wish fulfilled. It will help you to maintain the Sabbath. So I'd say absolutely. If it's enjoyable and it doesn't feel forced, absolutely. Oh, oh, thank you too, Juan. Thank you, Tracy. You guys are the best. Yeah, no, I do have to wrap this thing up soon, unfortunately. Thank you, Yvonne. Oh, you guys are amazing. Genuinely. Thank you so much. No, I've really, really enjoyed this as always. Appreciate and love each and every one of you. Apologies if I did not get to every single question today, but I hope this was informative. I hope this was helpful. I will be back again next week. And in the meantime, you guys, much, much, much love to all of you. Take care. And as always, keep persisting. Okay? Happy manifesting, guys.